A millionaire's son didn't speak for 3 years. Then a nanny changed everything with just one word. Max Cole, age 7, hadn't spoken a single word in 3 years. Not because he couldn't speak, but because the moment his mother passed away, his voice disappeared with her, as if grief had sealed every door inside his tiny heart. His father, Nathan Cole, was the founder and CEO of one of the largest software companies in the UK. A brilliant, busy man who had graced the covers of financial magazines with his billion-pound empire. Yet none of that mattered when he watched his son live in a silent world. No emotions, no words, just stillness. Over the past 3 years, Nathan had tried everything. The best speech therapists in London, top child psychologists, music therapy, animal-assisted therapy, even international programs using the latest neurotechnology. He had spent millions. All he got in return was absolute silence. Max would sit for hours, staring into space, drawing cryptic pictures no one could interpret, or clutching his mother's old pillow without a sound. Through it all, Nathan never gave up. But with each passing day, hope dimmed a little more. One chilly afternoon in late autumn, under a steel-gray London sky, Nathan made a choice he'd never made before: to take Max to a tiny cafe on the city's southern edge, a place where no one knew who they were. No doctors, no expectations, no agenda. Just a father trying to find something, a flicker, a change, however small. The Willow Bean was a small cafe tucked away on a quiet street in South London. Nothing fancy, just wooden tables, the soft crackle of jazz in the air, and the scent of toasted bread. Nathan chose a table by the window, helped Max sit down, then leaned in and whispered, "I'll be right outside. Just need to take this call, okay?" Max didn't respond. He didn't nod. He simply held his old backpack tightly, his eyes distant as always. Nathan stepped away with his phone pressed to his ear, disappearing through the cafe's front door. That's when Lily Thompson, 26, walked out from behind the counter. Hair pulled into a messy bun, apron smudged faintly with paint. She was the cafe's only staff member. She didn't know who the boy was. She only saw a small child sitting alone, silent, looking like he was waiting for someone to hear him. Lily didn't offer a menu. She didn't ask the usual questions. Instead, she approached the table slowly, crouching to meet the boy at eye level. "Hi there, I'm Lily. Would you like to draw while you wait for your dad? I've got some really cool markers." No answer. But his eyes flicked toward her, then quickly away. Still smiling, Lily gently placed a small box of markers and a blank sheet of paper on the table. She sat in the chair across from him, calm and unrushed. She picked up a red marker, twirling it softly in her fingers. "Do you like red?" Silence again. "If you like it, you can keep it. Or maybe draw something?" A quiet moment passed. Then slowly, Max reached out and took the marker. His lips parted slightly. A sound came out, so soft it could barely be heard. "Red!" Lily looked up. She couldn't be sure she'd heard right, but there was a flicker in his eyes. Something had shifted. She didn't press. She didn't celebrate. Just offered him another marker and whispered, "Would you like to draw with me?" When Nathan returned, he froze in the doorway. What he saw was something he hadn't seen in 3 long years. Max was drawing, and he wasn't alone. When Nathan stepped back into the cafe, he paused just inside the doorway. Before him was a sight that made him freeze. Max was drawing. Not aimless scribbles like usual, but real shapes. A house, a tree, and next to them a woman with long hair. No one had prompted him. No one was directing. Max was simply doing it. Sitting beside him was the same young woman, Lily. She wasn't talking or asking questions. She just sat there quietly, observing, occasionally handing Max another marker. Her presence was close enough to comfort, but distant enough not to overwhelm. Nathan didn't dare disturb the moment. He walked slowly toward the table, and Lily noticed him. She stood up politely. "I never asked. Would you like anything to drink?" It took Nathan a few seconds to respond. He hadn't expected her to notice something as small as that, not with everything else happening. "A cappuccino, please." "Thank you." Lily nodded and walked back to the counter. Nathan sat next to Max. The boy glanced at him, just once, then returned to his drawing. That single glance felt more powerful than 1,000 words. It was connection. A few minutes later, Lily returned with the drink and smiled. "Here you go." Nathan looked at her and spoke with quiet sincerity. "Would you mind sitting with us for a moment? Just a few minutes. I need to understand what's happening. Max hasn't been like this in 3 years. Lily hesitated, then gently pulled out the chair across from him. She didn't rush, didn't act surprised. She simply listened. Nathan shared everything. About the day Emily, his wife, suddenly passed from a brain hemorrhage, leaving behind a child too young to grasp the weight of loss. About the endless search for therapies, doctors, and miracle programs. Every expert offered advice. Every treatment carried hope, and then disappointment. Lily said nothing for a long time. She nodded, occasionally glancing toward Max, who continued to draw quietly. "Kids speak when they feel safe," she said softly. "And sometimes all they need is someone who doesn't rush, someone who's not trying to fix them." Nathan looked at her as if she'd just voiced the truth every expert had missed. "What do you do?" he asked. "I'm just a server. I studied special education for a while, but dropped out to care for my younger brother." The simplicity of her answer moved Nathan. It wasn't about credentials. It was about authenticity. A few minutes later, Lily picked up the red marker. "Can you tell me this color again?" she asked, her voice as soft as a breeze. Max looked at the marker, then at her. He spoke, just above a whisper. "Red." Nathan held his breath. He had heard it once already, but hearing it again, clear, intentional, was confirmation. This wasn't a fluke. This was real. "Well done," Lily said. Not loudly, not exaggerated. Just enough for Max to feel he'd done something good. Nathan couldn't quite remember how he breathed in that moment. Everything seemed to pause when Max uttered his first word in 3 years. "Red?" A single word, but it carried the weight of 1,000 therapy sessions and scientific diagnoses. It was the sound of a door cracking open, of timid hope blinking into the light after years of silence. Lily didn't gasp or widen her eyes. She didn't turn to Nathan in astonishment. Instead, she simply nodded, gently, as if this was exactly what she had expected all along, as if she believed Max would speak again sooner or later. "Great job, Max. Would you like to draw with red?" Max nodded. Lily placed the marker into his hand, and in that instant, Nathan saw something he hadn't seen in years, a voluntary response from his son. Not one prompted by doctors, not one encouraged by reward charts or pressure. Max did it because he wanted to. For the next 30 minutes, Lily sat quietly beside him, speaking in short, simple phrases. She never pushed for answers, but every time Max whispered a word, blue, tree, bird, Nathan felt something inside him break and rebuild all at once. He had heard it all over the past 3 years. Severe emotional trauma, selective mutism, needs medication, might never speak again. But now, in an old cafe, with a girl wearing a paint-stained apron, Max was talking. When Lily stepped away to tend to another table, Nathan finally found his voice again. He stared at her, then turned to Max, his words trembling. "Do you like her?" Max didn't look up, but he nodded softly. Once again, Nathan's heart cracked, this time from the overwhelming surge of emotion. When Lily returned, Nathan couldn't hold back any longer. His voice was raw. I don't know what just happened, but thank you. Truly. Lily smiled. No need to thank me. As they left the cafe, Max clutched his drawing like a treasure. He didn't speak again, but something in his eyes had changed. Brighter, deeper, as if a tiny door had creaked open inside him. At the car, Nathan paused and turned back to look at the cafe. The weathered wooden sign, the potted plants hanging by the window, and behind the glass, Lily was clearing a table. She didn't look up. She wasn't watching. She wasn't expecting anything. She was simply doing her job, like every other day. But to Nathan, she had done something no one else could. He glanced at Max. The boy remained quiet, but this silence didn't feel hopeless. It felt full of possibility. And somehow, Nathan knew today had shifted something. A missing piece of the puzzle had found its way home, and its name was Lily. The next day, after school, Max asked a question that made Nathan think he'd misheard. "Dad, are we going back to the cafe today?" Nathan nearly stopped the car in traffic. In 3 years, Max had never asked for anything like that. There had never been anticipation in his eyes. And now, this wasn't just recovery. It was joy. They returned to the Willow Bean. Nathan didn't wear his usual suit. He opted for jeans and a casual shirt, as if he, too, needed to step out of his world and just be a regular dad. The cafe looked the same, quiet, warm, familiar. Lily was wiping a table in the corner. She looked up as they entered, not surprised, not performing, just a genuine smile that warmed the room. Max ran straight to the drawing table from the day before. Lily approached with a warm milk in hand and a radiant glimmer in her eyes. "Hi, Max. You're back?" the boy replied in a soft but clear voice. "Yes." Nathan sat down, watching his son the whole time. A part of him still couldn't believe what was happening. Lily went back to her tasks, moving with ease and intention. She greeted each customer by name, smiled at an elderly couple, comforted a crying child, then cast a gentle glance toward Max, who was lost in coloring. When she had a spare moment, she walked over. Nathan invited her to sit. He wanted to know more, not just about what she did, but about who she was. They talked longer than they had the day before. About Lily's younger brother, Jamie, who had Down syndrome. About how she had taken care of him since he was 10. How she'd left university, taken on full-time work, managed his therapy, his medications, and his special school needs. Nathan listened without interrupting, not as a businessman, not as a skeptic, but as a man deeply moved. What he admired wasn't her intellect or training, it was her quiet strength. When Lily asked about Max's past, Nathan opened up. No longer fragmented explanations, like with doctors, but real pieces of pain. The way Max looked at his mother for the last time, the sirens in the rain, the empty stare that lasted for 3 long years. Lily didn't press for details. She just said one thing. "I lost my mom too. But love, when it's real, doesn't disappear. It changes form, from presence to memory. And sometimes memory is enough to start healing." Nathan had no words. No one had ever said that to him with such calm truth. She looked over at Max, who was laughing at a coloring mistake, and added, "If a child feels loved, they'll find their voice again. No need to rush them, just someone who believes it will come." That day, as they left the cafe, Max turned and asked, "Can we come back again tomorrow, Dad?" Nathan nodded, but this time the nod wasn't just for Max. It was for himself, because in his heart the seed of hope had begun to grow. In the days that followed, the Willow Bean became their daily ritual. Max entered the cafe with a spark Nathan hadn't seen since the day Emily passed. Max began speaking more. Simple words, short sentences, but clear and steady. He talked about classmates, favorite colors, and sometimes even dreams. He drew every day, not just houses and trees, but suns, birds, and a woman who always stood beside him in the pictures. Lily noticed each tiny change. One afternoon, as the two walked in, Max called out joyfully, "Lily, I'm here!" She laughed, waved at him, and pointed to the back corner of the cafe. There, a small table waited, with a sketch pad, a box of markers, and a fresh jar of pencils. She had created a space just for him, a quiet, safe world filled with color. Max ran to his corner as if it belonged to him. Lily joined him on the floor, not saying much. Every so often she'd ask, "What are you drawing today?" Some days Max would answer right away. Other days he'd just smile and draw. But always, always he looked at Lily as if she were his truest friend, the only one who truly understood him. Nathan often sat nearby with his coffee. At first he watched Max, but slowly his eyes began to linger elsewhere. They lingered on Lily. He noticed how she leaned in when Max whispered, how she waited patiently for him to finish each line, how she never once looked at him with pity. Just soft presence, quiet faith. Sometimes Lily laughed, lightly, gently at something Max said. And in those moments, Nathan would lift his eyes from the rim of his cup, realizing he was smiling too. He couldn't name the feeling. It wasn't love, not yet, not quite attraction. Just something warm, something quiet, like sunlight falling into a room that had been closed for far too long. One quiet afternoon, when the cafe was less busy than usual, Nathan sat watching Lily finish wiping down a table. Max was in his usual corner, drawing another picture, this time with two new figures. One looked like Jamie, Lily's brother. The other wore a tie and had curly hair like Nathan. When Lily approached with his coffee, Nathan hesitated. "I want to ask you something. Personal." Lily raised an eyebrow, but smiled. She sat down, sensing something genuine in his tone. "I want to offer you a job, not as a therapist or a teacher, just someone to be there for Max. A companion. I'll pay well, make sure the hours work for you, so you can still care for your brother." Lily stayed quiet. Her face didn't show refusal, but it didn't light up either. She glanced toward Max and spoke gently. "I'm not sure I can. My boss here is really understanding. He lets me work flexible hours so I can take Jamie to therapy and his special school. If I leave, it all unravels." Nathan nodded, understanding. But he didn't back down. "I could support Jamie too. Whatever he needs, doctors, schooling, therapy, I can afford it. And honestly, I want to." Lily looked startled. Her eyes flickered between doubt and something softer, maybe gratitude, maybe fear. "Why?" she whispered. "Because Max has never been like this. Because you did what hundreds of professionals couldn't. Because I believe you have something money can't buy." His answer left her silent. Then she asked the question she'd been holding back. "What do you really do?" Nathan looked at her for a long moment before replying. "I'm the founder of CoalSoft. You might have heard of it. Some tech news, maybe." Lily's eyes widened. She leaned back slightly, as if the ground beneath her had shifted. "You're the CEO of CoalSoft?" Nathan nodded slowly. He didn't rush to explain. He knew she needed space. The air between them felt heavy, uncertain, but before the silence could grow too long, Max came running from the corner, holding his newest drawing. "Miss Lily, look, I drew all of us. You, Jamie, Daddy, and me." Lily took the paper, her lips parting. 4 people stood hand in hand. Above them, in wobbly crayon letters, was a single word. Family? Nathan looked at Lily. She looked at Max. And in that moment, class, status, and logic fell away. What remained was truth. A child had found his voice through love. A man had begun to believe in life again. And a woman, ordinary in every way, carried the most extraordinary gift of all. Unconditional kindness. That night, the small Brixton apartment fell into a quiet hush. Lily sat alone by the wooden chair next to the window, streetlight casting a soft amber glow through the thin curtain. In the room next door, Jamie was fast asleep, his arms wrapped around a worn-out teddy bear. His steady breathing sounded like a lullaby, pulling Lily back into her thoughts. On the table lay the drawing Max had given her. 4 people, hand in hand, and above them the word family still etched in crayon. She touched the paper gently, as if she could feel the weight of the wish inside it. Nathan's offer echoed in her mind. It wasn't a job. It wasn't a transaction. It was a home, a place to belong, a family. But fear held its place too. Who was she in his world? A girl who never finished college, working long shifts to support her brother. And Nathan. He could change their lives with a single phone call. Lily clenched her fists. Her pride hesitated. But then she glanced toward Jamie's room. He was sleeping peacefully, his face soft and calm, the very peace she had fought for all her youth. And now there was a chance for him to live better, safer, a chance she could never give alone. She closed her eyes. This wasn't about her. It was about love, for the boy who had taught her what unconditional love truly meant. A week later, Nathan drove into a modest housing block in Brixton, where Lily and Jamie lived. Max sat in the back seat, holding the drawing they'd made earlier that week, unusually excited. He wanted to give it to Jamie, a boy he hadn't met yet, but who already lived in their shared family picture. The apartment was on the 3rd floor, white painted walls faded by time, a few flower pots hanging from the balcony. When Lily opened the door, Jamie came running out with a wide smile. At 19, his eyes were bright and kind, his shaggy hair bouncing as he waved. His friendly voice immediately made Max smile back. Within minutes, the two were sitting on the living room floor, drawing together as if they'd known each other forever. Jamie showed Max how to blend colors using his fingers, while Max taught him how to make a rainbow with 3 markers at once. Lily stood back, watching, half surprised, half moved. Nathan sat beside her, still holding the cup of warm tea she had made. The kitchen was small but cozy, filled with the faint smell of cinnamon and baked cookies, like all the quiet afternoons had gathered there. He turned toward her, voice low but steady. "Lily, I don't want to hire you anymore." She looked at him, startled, but before she could misunderstand, he continued, "I don't need an employee. I want you and Jamie to move in with Max and me, not to work, to live as a real family." The room went still. Only the boys' laughter filled the silence. "I've already contacted the best support center for Jamie. If you agree, I can provide for his future, something stable, long-term. But more than that, Max needs you, not just as someone who helps, but as someone who belongs." Lily looked at him, her heart caught in a whirl of emotion. Part of her wanted to believe, the other part feared it. The gap between them was too wide, a billionaire CEO and a girl who dropped out of school to raise her brother. "What could I possibly give you?" she whispered. Max answered before Nathan could. He ran over, holding the drawing tightly, and said with all the innocence in the world, "Miss Lily, if you're family, then you're supposed to live with us, right?" Lily laughed as tears welled in her eyes, nodding softly. Some questions don't need explanations, just a feeling true enough to answer them. Nathan's offer still lingered in the air as he and Max left the small Brixton apartment that afternoon. On the drive home, Max sat in the back seat, holding the drawing and softly humming a tune. He didn't fully understand what had happened, but he sensed something shifting in the way his dad looked at him and in the way Lily had looked back. Nathan understood it all too well. He had just done something he never imagined himself doing, asking a woman and her brother to become part of his family. Not out of impulse, but out of something deeper. In his heart, he knew it was right. But Lily wasn't ready yet. In the days that followed, they continued visiting the Willowbean as usual. Everything seemed the same. Lily still brought Max his warm milk, still asked him what he wanted to draw. But between the smiles and soft exchanges, there was an unnamed silence. Nathan didn't push. He waited. Just as Max had waited 3 years to speak, Nathan believed that some things take time, and that time, when it's right, speaks louder than urgency. A week later, Lily left a small folded note on the cafe counter as Nathan paid. In her soft handwriting it read, "If your offer still stands, I'm open to talking more. This weekend, at my place. Jamie wants to see Max." It was the beginning. That weekend they met again. No more proposals, no tension. Just kids laughing in the living room, the clink of teacups in the kitchen, and the kind of glance that lingers longer than expected. Then the decision came, not in words, but in gestures. The Richmond villa no longer looked the same. The expensive abstract paintings were taken down, replaced by Max and Jamie's colorful drawings. The once silent living room now echoed with laughter, the scent of fresh-baked cookies, and soft music playing gently from hidden speakers. Lily and Jamie officially moved in with Nathan and Max on a quiet Monday morning. There was no ceremony, no formal announcement, just boxes, hugs, and Max calling out, "Lily, where's Jamie?" Nathan had prepared everything. Jamie had his own room filled with natural light and learning toys. Lily chose a small room overlooking the garden where she could watch the boys play every afternoon. Max blossomed day by day. He spoke more, asked more questions, and smiled with growing ease. But what struck Nathan most was the night Max called Lily Mom for the first time. No one had taught him. No one had planned it. He simply looked up from his homework one evening and said, "Mom, I'm done writing." Lily turned, eyes wide. Nathan froze, heart caught in his throat. But she didn't correct him. She didn't stop him. She just pulled Max into a hug and kissed his head. Jamie adjusted faster than anyone expected. With a steady schedule, professional support, and Nathan's patience, he began developing new skills, dressing himself, remembering weekly routines, even starting basic art classes. Nathan, too, was learning to live again. He cut back his work hours, silenced his phone each evening, and started cooking, even if it was just clumsy pasta. He was grateful to Lily, not just for love, but for life. One night, after the kids had gone to bed, Nathan and Lily sat together in the backyard. The air was cool, garden lights cast a golden glow, and the soft sounds of crickets felt like a lullaby. He looked at her, voice low, unguarded. "I never thought I'd feel this alive again. After Emily, I thought I had nothing left but work, money, and walls. But you opened a door I thought was locked forever." Lily didn't answer. She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. There were no promises spoken, no declarations made. Because when love is real, it doesn't need to be announced. It just needs to be present, true, quiet, and warm. One early spring Sunday, the whole family returned to the Willow Bean. The cafe hadn't changed. The same wooden tables, the comforting scent of coffee, and sunlight cutting across the windows like the start of something new. Max ran in first, holding a neatly folded piece of paper. Jamie followed behind, proudly showing off the first bracelet he had made on his own at the Skills Center. Lily walked between them, her hands still naturally laced with Nathan's. They sat at their usual table, the one where it all began. Lily ordered warm milk for Max and Jamie's favorite pastry. Nathan just looked around, not at the place, but at the people around him. Family. Max waited until everyone was settled, then carefully unfolded the paper, his voice full of pride. "Dad, this is my writing assignment. My teacher said we should write about our family." Lily smiled. Nathan nodded. "Let's hear it, buddy." Max took a deep breath and read without hesitation. "I have 2 mums. One is in the sky. She used to sing me songs and read me stories. I miss her. The other one is here. She makes me laugh, helps me draw, and hugs me when I'm sad. I think I'm lucky. Most people only have one." For a moment, no one spoke. Lily covered her mouth. Nathan looked down at his coffee, feeling warmth blur the edge of his vision. Max looked at them and asked innocently, "Is that okay, Mom?" Lily smiled, nodded, and pulled him into a hug. "It's perfect, sweetheart." Just then, Jamie took a small wooden frame from his backpack. Inside was a collage he'd made himself, the word family spelled out in multicolored letters. He looked at Nathan, his voice steadier than it had ever been. "I made this for all of us. They taught me how to measure, cut, and glue. It was hard at first, but I did it. By myself." Nathan beamed, receiving the gift as if it were priceless. A soft breeze flowed through the window. Lily looked at Nathan, her gaze calm but full. Nathan gently squeezed her hand. "If I hadn't brought Max here that day, I'd still just be a man who knows how to make money but not how to live." Lily didn't answer. She rested her head on his shoulder. There was nothing left to say. Everything they needed was already here. One late summer evening, as the first whispers of autumn drifted through the windows, Nathan took Lily out into the backyard. Max and Jamie were already asleep. The house was quiet, save for the gentle hum of jazz playing through the small speakers. The garden lights cast a soft glow on Lily's face. She wore a cozy sweater, her hair tied up, her features tired from the long day. But to Nathan, she had never looked more beautiful. He watched her for a long moment before speaking. "There's something I want to ask you." Lily turned, expecting him to tease like always, but the look in his eyes silenced her. Nathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a simple, elegant ring, radiant like everything Lily had brought into his life. "You didn't just help Max find his voice, you helped me find mine. I was living, but not alive. I don't want to go another day calling you anything less than my wife." Lily covered her mouth. Tears spilled before she could even nod. No grand speeches were needed. Just that one nod was everything. The wedding took place 3 months later in the backyard garden. Only close friends and family attended, and the sound of Max and Jamie's laughter filled the air like music. Max served as best man, and Jamie, wearing a suit lovingly altered by Lily, was the ring bearer. Nathan couldn't hold back his tears when Jamie walked up the aisle holding a small pillow with 2 shining rings. When the officiant asked if Lily said yes, she didn't answer with words. She turned, hugged Max, and said, "Yes, because this is where I belong." One spring morning, Lily stood in the bathroom holding a pregnancy test in trembling hands. When 2 pink lines appeared, she gasped softly. Nathan was making breakfast, Max was studying with Jamie. She stepped out, eyes red, not from worry, but joy. "We're having a baby." Nathan said nothing. He just pulled her into a long embrace. He understood, and he believed. 9 months later, in a quiet hospital in Richmond, Lily gave birth to twin girls, Emma and Eliza. One had dark hair like Lily, the other soft brown curls like Nathan. Max whispered, "I'm a big brother now," while Jamie cried as he held the tiny newborns in his arms. The house was no longer quiet. Cries, lullabies, and the word Mom filled every corner. But it was those very sounds that made the place truly feel like home. One late night, while all 5 children slept peacefully, Nathan stepped out onto the balcony, looking out at the city lights. Lily followed, wrapped in a shawl, resting her head on his shoulder. "Do you believe all this started from a cup of warm milk at an old cafe?" Lily laughed softly. "I do, because real love doesn't arrive with thunder, it tiptoes in on warm milk and quiet smiles." Nathan pulled her closer. In that moment, there were no companies, no shareholders, no outside world, just him and his family. whole, complete, and full of life.